Building impressive, well-defined shoulders is a fitness goal that many aspire to achieve. Not only do strong and broad shoulders enhance one's physical appearance, but they also play a crucial role in overall upper body strength and functionality. But if you aren't optimizing how you train your shoulders, you ultimately won't see the results you've been dreaming of. In today's video, I'll discuss 3 essential strategies that when integrated into your routine will significantly boost your shoulder development. Welcome back to another video. I'm Brendan Martinez. I'm currently getting my doctorate in physical therapy. Now, before we jump into the 3 techniques, let's do a quick anatomy review so we understand how our shoulders are actually made up. Our shoulders consist of the deltoid muscles, which are made up of 3 heads. There is the anterior or front deltoid, the middle or lateral deltoid, and the posterior deltoid. For well-rounded and developed shoulders, we need to have equal growth in all 3 of these heads. And now that we understand how our shoulders are made up, let's jump into the first tip, which is to optimize our training volume. If you want your shoulders to grow, it's important to train them regularly. It's obvious that if you don't train your shoulders enough, you ultimately won't get the results you want. Now, before we discuss the ideal training volume, there's 2 essential definitions that we need to understand. The first of which is maximal effective volume, which refers to the volume of work you can achieve the greatest gains in muscle mass and performance. And the second is maximum recoverable volume, which refers to the maximal load that an individual can recover from and respond to positively. And now that we understand these definitions, what are these numbers when we're talking about our shoulders? For the middle and rear deltoid, the maximal adaptive volume is 16 to 22 sets per week, while for the front deltoid, it's only 6 to 8 sets per week. Then for the maximal recoverable volume, for both the middle and rear deltoid once again, it's 26 sets per week. And then for the front deltoid, it's only 12 sets per week. Ultimately, the front delt volume is much lower than the other 2 heads, solely since our front delts work in so many different exercises. For example, the bench press, push-ups, dips, all 3 of these exercises heavily work the front delts in conjunction with the pecs, so you don't need nearly as much supplemental exercises. And normally the front delt is the most developed of all 3 heads. As for the other 2 heads, many people will target the middle deltoid, but often the rear deltoid is neglected, which is a huge mistake. Having a well-developed posterior delt is not only essential for shoulder size, but just a well-rounded shoulder in general. So if you take anything away from this video, please train your rear delts because that alone will accelerate your shoulder growth. And that wraps up tip number 1. Let's jump into the second tip, which is to integrate compound movements. Integrating compound movements into our training routine is essential to optimize your muscle growth, and this area can be improved for many people. Compound exercises refer to any exercise that involves multiple joints, and ultimately you'll be working a larger number of muscle groups. There are numerous benefits to compound exercises, such as burning more calories, preventing any muscular imbalances, improved core strength, and it also stimulates an increased hormone release of testosterone, which ultimately increases your overall muscle mass and strength. Now, once you do perform compound movements, right in the beginning of your exercise, when performed in the beginning, you will have the most energy and be able to push yourself, which ultimately will result in you getting more out of the exercise. And once we've completed the compound movements, that's when you integrate your isolation exercises. Now, some examples of compound exercises include squats, lunges, bench press, bent over rows, and many other exercises. But more specifically pertaining to our shoulders, some examples include barbell overhead press, side lateral raises, standing Arnold press, and numerous other exercises. And if you integrate these compound movements into the beginning of your exercises, I promise you it'll take your shoulders to the next level. And the final tip that we're going to talk about in today's video is optimizing your recovery time and preventing overtraining. Now, in my experience, this is something that's overlooked in both novice and experienced lifters. Taking recovery days can seem counterintuitive to a lot of people because there is the preconceived notion that if there's no pain, there's no gain. And the more that you lift, the more results you'll see. However, this can be a very dangerous mindset to have and can have many negative effects. A good rule of thumb for rest days is when you perform legs, you should rest at least 72 hours before you perform your next leg day. And realistically, for any other muscle group, you should rest at least 48 hours before targeting that same muscle group again. And now I just quickly want to go over some of the negative effects that can happen if you do overtrain. And these negative effects include a decrease in performance, a huge increase in injury risk, increased daily fatigue, sleep disturbances, a plateau in your progress, and a loss in muscle mass. And alternatively, proper rest improves performance, it heavily decreases your risk of injury, it improves your sleep, and ultimately it builds better long-term habits. And ultimately the positives heavily outweigh the negatives, and if you integrate this tip with the other 2, you will accelerate your shoulder growth and finally start seeing the results you've been dreaming of. And if you want to take your shoulder growth to the next level, you need to watch this video that's popping up here. It's going to go over 3 essential exercises that you need to integrate into your training routine.